If you're pregnant, employed, and concerned about exposure to the coronavirus, understandably, stick around a few minutes until the end of this video because I'm going to tell you exactly what steps to take to protect yourself, your unborn baby, and your job. But first, some relevant pregnancy-based facts. According to the World Health Organization, pregnant women or recently pregnant women who are older, overweight, or have pre-existing medical conditions like hypertension or diabetes seem to have an increased risk of developing severe COVID-19. When pregnant women develop severe disease, they also seem to more often require hospital stays in intensive care units compared with non-pregnant women of similar reproductive age. Due to changes in women's bodies and immune systems, scientists, obstetricians know that pregnant women can be badly affected by certain respiratory infections. Therefore, it's really important that they take precautions to protect themselves against contracting COVID-19. Importantly, as of December 23, 2020, less than a couple of months ago, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention added the state of being pregnant at any age to the long list of underlying medical conditions, aka comorbidities, that present increased risk for developing severe illness from the virus that causes COVID-19. Severe illness from COVID-19 is defined by the CDC as hospitalization, admission to the ICU, intubation or mechanical ventilation, or death. It's a major risk. And now in New York State, where this law firm happens to be located, by the way, pregnancy is listed as one of the underlying conditions, along with heart disease, hypertension, chronic kidney, liver, and pulmonary disease, etc., entitling pregnant women to get an early COVID-19 vaccine starting on February 15th, along with all New York State residents who are over the age of 65. This brand new official status of all healthy, normal pregnancies as an underlying condition and risk factor for developing severe illness from exposure to the coronavirus means that pregnant working women are entitled to a reasonable accommodation of their job functions in this still perilous pandemic time, especially if you're commuting to and from work and or working in an office or group setting that may expose you to COVID-19, given your increased vulnerabilities now that you're pregnant. And if you have pregnancy-based medical conditions, such as gestational diabetes or hypertension, or pregnancy-induced or pregnancy-exacerbated asthma, depression, anxiety, inflammatory bowel disease, thyroid or other endocrine abnormalities, or fetal maladies, you're certainly entitled to what's known as an interactive process or cooperative dialogue with your employer regarding your special temporary need for flexibility, such as working from home, working remotely. And your company must engage in this reasonable accommodation analysis the same as it would for any non-pregnant employee with a temporary or permanent disability, because it's required by law. And if you work for any employer in certain jurisdictions, such as New York City, you're entitled to this flexibility just because you're pregnant. And it's almost as protective if you work for any employer anywhere in New York State. But even if you work elsewhere in the United States, many other states and cities have similarly expansive new protection for pregnant and lactating employees. And if your state or city doesn't provide generous protection, as long as you work for a company with at least 15 employees anywhere in the U.S., you are entitled to flexibility when pregnant if you have a pregnancy-based medical condition or pregnancy-based anxiety related to COVID. Your employer is required to grant such request unless it can demonstrate that it would cause the company a so-called undue hardship. And your company can't just fire you or treat you worse just because you've made this legally protected request, as that would be illegal and prohibited retaliation. As promised, now, here's what you need to do to protect yourself, your unborn baby, and your job during these pandemic times. First, identify the pregnancy-based issue or concern in advance and consider what flexibility you need from your company in order to allow you to most safely make it through a full-term pregnancy and your maternity leave and return to your job or a comparable job no worse for wear. If you can get your obstetrician to support your request with a confirmatory note, all the better for you, although it's not necessary or required under the law. Second, put your request in writing to your employer, really important step, to your company's human resource director or to any corporate officer, the business owner, or any person in upper management. Third, send your request in a way that you can prove receipt of it, either through ensuring that any email with a subject line that mentions your request for a pregnancy-based reasonable accommodation is responded to with a confirmation of receipt or a substantive response, so that you will have a paper trail of when this request was first made to your company. All verbal requests or conversations about your pregnancy, discriminatory treatment related to your pregnancy, and requests for flexibility and reasonable accommodation of your pregnancy should be immediately documented in writing also and sent in approvable fashion to your employer. Now, most classically, an initial letter sent by FedEx or USPS Priority Mail is best, as then you'll have tracking information proof of when the request was received and signed for by your company, but it's not necessary. The point is that you want a record of all conversations, requests, and complaints, however you choose to accomplish that outcome. Now, in so-called one-party consent jurisdictions like New York, where a person is permitted legally to record a conversation without the knowledge or consent of the other person who's also in New York, you can generate digital proof of requests and/or discriminatory or retaliatory comments that may prove really useful later on. But caution is required, as employers frown upon such activity if discovered and can terminate an employee relationship based on that surreptitious recording alone. So a paper trail of complaints and requests and their responses to those requests are clearly preferable. Third step, cooperate with your company's interactive process regarding your accommodation requests or the investigation into your protected complaint of pregnancy discrimination, and continue to document all conversations and requests along with any medical support for your claims and your company's responses or any additional backlash that you're suffering as a result of these requests. Fourth step, don't quit your job, right? Don't resign even if you're really dissatisfied with your company's responses, as you'll be forfeiting all your legal leverage and likely won't even qualify for unemployment benefits. Fifth step, if desired by you, is to contact an employee rights law firm such as this one, or an employment lawyer who concentrates their practice in the city or state where you work, as they'll be most familiar with the laws and the civil procedures in that jurisdiction to best help empower you. You may then wish to retain a law firm, depending on how it goes, to help you navigate a difficult employment relationship based on your sex and pregnancy. And most law firms that do this type of work offer free initial consultations and may work on a contingent fee arrangement going forward. The sixth step may be to file a court complaint or a charge of discrimination with the U.S. EEOC or a comparable state or city administrative agency, but don't try this at home or do this on your own, as you may be committing to a time-sensitive legal strategy and avenue that will compromise your overall legal leverage. I hope this video was informative and helpful, and if so, please like and share it, and please subscribe to this YouTube channel for breaking employment law news delivered right to your inbox. I'm Jack Tuckner with the firm of Tuckner, Sipser & Weinstock & Sipser. Feel free to comment or ask questions below that I will answer, or contact me to have a chat about your pregnancy-based workplace challenges. Be safe and stay well. You're doing a great job during a difficult time to be both pregnant and employed. Stay strong.